Good morning.
Good morning. I'm telling Jill's pushing the wrong buttons.
We were in these exact positions 10 hours ago.
Was it even that long?
I don't know.
I feel like it wasn't. Because we
Yeah,
ended at like 2:30 your time, 1:30 my time. It
yeah.
wasn't 12 hours ago.
We started at around 1,
Mhm.
and we do like our own personal little therapy before we hit the record button.
Yep.
And I think we started at about 1:45.
No, I
Ma-
think it was a little before that because I think that was done around that time. I don't remember. Uh, I want to point out, I posted on my Facebook about Dark Night of the Soul. So if you're interested in that, hop on over, have a look. Or if you're just not sure what it is, this guy gives a great explanation as to what it is and how to navigate it. And I will post that on the Crippy Soup as well. I just didn't get that far. I found it and
yeah.
went, ooh, I have to share before I lose it.
Okay. I just gotta find my spot in these notes. Yeah, because the plan was like I've had these notes done for I don't know how long, and Jenny had something very important to talk about, which if this goes well, hers is going to be released early, so by the time this comes out you're already going to know. So,
Yeah.
um
Sorry, I
and
had to. Sorry, I'm gonna just shut up.
no, what you had to talk about was super super important, so I had no issues with giving you the floor. It was important, and it was your welcome back episode.
Yeah.
So it was all for you. Um,
Thank you for letting me do that. I do want to say that.
you're
And yeah, it was important to me and I felt that it was important to share that information. So
I can guarantee you it's going to be important for somebody.
other
So,
than me.
oh yeah, absolutely. Um, so I mean, I don't know. Do we want to bullshit a little bit, jump into it? Um, okay, my notes were not very detailed. And please tell me I wrote down my other yes. Woo. Um so my sources for this before we get it.
My cat is yelling at me in her sleep.
Okay,
I
I go
told you before, she's a
from
bitch.
Rachel with her crazy ass cat, and now
Sorry. She's sleeping, but she's doing weird things in her sleep.
yeah.
And to be fair, ordinarily I do not have a cat in here when we record because in most cases the cats come in, they do a lap and they go out. Like they're just in here checking to see if I got any mice for them.
Oh,
But today she decided my bed was the comfy bed. So yeah, she's Goldilocks today, and I'll be nice and I'll share. This is Misty.
she's like, I am not signing autographs. So
She's very vocal. She yells at me when I let her outside, and then yells at me when I let her back in. It's like I'm sorry. I'm only doing what you want, you know. Um, her and I banter quite a bit. Because Bagel, the orange and white one, she's not vocal like at all. Like even when I come home at night and she'll have no food, like she comes and brushes against me instead of meowing. And if she does meow, it is like the world's smallest meow. Like it's seriously like, excuse me, ma'am, did you say something? And I refer to my cats as ma'am. I know.
And as we heard, and like I said, by the time this comes out and the other one's released, you'll already know my birds are dicks and an asshole.
She likes me today. It's rare. Until she decides she's had enough of me, and then she'll swat me away.
Yeah, that sounds like a cat. Thankfully, Roy's allergic to cats. I had a horrible cat growing up, and that kind of turned me off of all other cats.
Mm.
But with Roy being allergic, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. This one is not a people person, but she likes to be around people at the same time. She just doesn't want you near her. Like, she'll come by you. Don't go by her.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that would be fine because I wouldn't.
Yeah. And in fact, Marcella was afraid of her because she will swat if you walk down the hallway and she's in the doorway and you invaded her space. What? I'm sorry. Can you hear her?
Yeah.
So yeah, she chatters at me a lot. Can't imagine where she gets that from.
Yeah.
Oh, you were laying on this, ma'am. That was mine.
So we can get into this because I still gotta get ready for work and all that good fun stuff. Because yeah, I have to work today, but I want to find my spot in these notes. So when I get to them, I can just okay, no, don't do this to me, motherfucker.
Minute.
I think so. Getting close. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the story I'm doing, okay, I started out wanting to do a haunted location that wasn't in Michigan. So that's what I started with. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, wait a minute, I know this. I know this story. I've seen the movie. Okay. So I thought, well, this is going to be a twofer. There's not really a whole, I mean, there's a lot of hauntings, but not a lot of different ones that wasn't going to fill an episode. So I'm doing the true crime story that caused the hauntings. Okay, it starts out. So this is the case of the Mercer. Well, it started out as the Mercer house, and now it's the Mercer Williams house in Savannah, Georgia.
I don't know if I know it.
I first heard about it because of the movie In the Garden of Good and Evil.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Jude Law, I think. I don't know.
I think so, yeah.
He's not my cup of tea. So, but good movie. And when I decided to do this, I thought, well, I'm gonna do get the book. Nope. And I that is not used for any of my sources because one, I only got to chapter 5 and I was like, fuck this. And the guy admits to changing timelines and embellishing. So it's a nonfiction fiction.
That grain of truth in there.
Yeah. And I didn't get far enough where they're discussing the case. It's other people, eccentric people in Savannah, Georgia. I give zero fucks about them. Okay. Thanks.
Right.
Bye. So the Mercer house was built Italiente style. I don't know. That's just what it said. And these notes come from SavannahFirstTimer.com.
Okay. I don't think I've ever heard of that style, but that doesn't mean that it's not a style.
And here's the thing. In this article, the woman that wrote it talks about how the family that now runs the Mercer house, because they own like all rights to this house, posting photos, if they're found, they can sue you. So I will not be posting photos of this house. You can go look it up on your own. I'm not posting photos because
Okay.
my and she just wants like a percentage of what, I don't know, because I ain't making any money on this.
What?
Um,
Basically, she a greedy hoe.
yeah,
That's what I heard.
yeah. Okay, because
Move this over here because she's
the guy in the story, because he does eventually pass, he left the home to his mother. When the mother died, it went to the sister.
okay.
And yeah,
And is that where it is now then?
actually the sister passed away last year or the year before.
Oh, okay.
Because of course, like while I'm looking this up, I looked her up and she had passed away.
Okay.
So, okay, this was built that kind of style in the 1860s for General Hugh Mercer. And fun fact, he is the great grandfather of singer-songwriter Johnny Mercer.
I'd need a song.
Me too. I've heard of him, but I don't know what he sings. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And I'd probably hear something that he does, and I would be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Because like music is my thing. Like, okay. So, at the time of building the house, Hugh was married and working as a cashier at the Planters Bank when he started construction on the house.
Okay.
And then all this has halted the construction for the Civil War. So he goes off to war. And after the war, instead of coming back to the home and finish building, he moves to Baltimore. And he sells the home to John Wilder, who completes construction in 1869. And he dies 10 years later. At that point, the home is known as the Mercer Wilder House. After this, the home went through owners and often sat vacant, and it falls into a state of neglect. During a vacant time period, an 11-year-old named Tommy Downs kind of sneaks in. He was playing around and fell to his death from the home's top level. The fence around the home was one of those with like the spikes, and he was impaled in the skull.
Oh.
I'm just relaying information I read. And another fun fact, to this day, that spike is still missing.
Okay, that's just weird.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there's many missing spikes because I mean it's old. It's very old.
Yeah, we're also gonna randomly steal spikes from a fence.
Yeah, but the one in question is on the south facing side of the home, which again, I'll post a picture of this particular. I mean, there's nothing on it. It's the spike. But he is actually the first known spirit of the home.
Okay.
And you know what, I was gonna wait until the end and talk about it, but with his haunting, I'm guessing it's residual because people have reported seeing him falling to his death.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't want to see that.
It could be he's stuck in a loop too, though.
It could be. It very well could be. It could be that, or it could be residual. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Either way, it's sad.
I mean, I guess it would depend on like if you yell for him to stop and he doesn't pay attention to you, that's residual. Now if
Right.
he yeah, so I don't know. But one of the stories surrounding little Tommy is that he wasn't alone and somebody pushed him. Again, it's just a story. No one knows the details.
Okay.
So in 1969, Jim Williams, who is our villain, I mean, he is. He's the villain of the story. He purchases the home and begins renovations. He did an impeccable job on the house and ends up living there. And by this time, like by the time he turned 24, he was I don't know if there's an actual name for it, but he was one of those people that bought and restored homes, like historic homes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like, and I mean, I
He's a
got some,
flipper.
yeah. But he was also an antique dealer
Okay.
and he restored those, and his like the storefront business was run from the carriage house, but the home was like just full of antiques.
Wow.
That's important to note.
Yes.
And
Always.
some of the antiques in the home were guns. Okay. So we're gonna jump around a little bit because okay, so my sources for the story are savannahfirsttimer.com, a little bit of Wikipedia, but not a lot, because I know that's not really a strong source. And I listened to a podcast about this, and I'm using some of her stuff for as a source, and that is Southern Fried True Crime. It's a good one. If you haven't listened. And
Mom, listen. Southern True Crime. There you go. There's a podcast for you.
when she messaged me and asked me, I believe I did tell her
She probably forgot.
Southern Fried Fruit.
Southern Tried Fruit. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Southern Fried True Crime. The lady that does it is Erica Kelly, I think is her name. I'm bad. I like the podcast, and she does these podcasts solo, but she's not boring about it.
Mhm.
She just gets to the shit. Okay, so our murder victim in this, because this is obviously a true crime case, is Danny Lewis Hansford. He was born in March of 1960 in Savannah, Georgia. His parents were Emily and George. Danny is actually their third child. And a year after he was born, his dad left the family, left the mom to raise three kids. And I know I've done stories where the dad leaves, mom raises the kids, marries an abusive asshole afterwards. And it's kind of the same thing here. She remarries, has her first daughter because Danny is the third son. And then the mom and the husband, the second husband, are divorced. So when Danny is 7, his biological father, who's not very involved in his life, kills himself. And by the time the mom is divorced, Danny is 10. So by 10, he has no father figure. And at this time, social service step in, and the boys are removed a couple of times, and she comes and gets them. Danny at the age of 15 is actually in a mental health facility, and because the mother does not want to participate in like a family counseling type thing, she rips them out of there and says, let's go. So when Danny is 21, he begins dating a woman named Debbie, who is the same age as he is. He thinks it's more serious. Well, she looked at it as like, this is a casual type relationship. And he had actually proposed a few times, but at the same time, he is not faithful. He actually works as a male sex worker. And that is basically, he says enough money to survive, but most people surmise that it's to feed his drug habit.
Even better.
And
He's a winner.
yeah. And just wait, because I'm going to quote somebody's description of this man. So some people are saying this is how he met Jim Williams, who owns the Mercer House. And it's also said that they met at a park, I think. No, some people say that he rode his bike up to the front door of the Mercer home looking for a job. And I really want to find the, okay. So at this point, when 21-year-old Danny and Jim Williams meet, Jim is 50. So there's an age gap.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, here it is. One of Jim's friends, this is a quote from the podcast because I have the transcript. One of Jim's friends, Joseph Goodman, who is actually, I believe it's him, it's important to this story, described Danny as nasty looking. He said, quote, he could hardly talk because he was on drugs. He was always nasty. He had tattoos, which that's not the bad part because, we've got those. Dirty fingernails. He didn't bathe regularly, smelled horrible, and had green teeth.
I'm sad to say I actually knew someone who kind of fit that description. And he was referred to using that description. It was his name, green teeth.
All right. I've known people who are gross, but not to that extent, thank God. I don't know if I could be around somebody with green teeth. That would
Wasn't my friend. It was actually my ex-husband's friend.
Which one of the funny things about, you hear this description, and again, he's not my cup of tea, but in the movie he's played by Jude Law.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, and to be fair, okay, minus out not being able to speak right, okay, because that's clearly a part of the drug thing. Okay, add in the other things, and I bet you get another chick on drugs, she can see right past it, and thinking that he is like a Jude Law. You know what I mean?
I mean, again, Jude Law's not my cup of tea, but he does sound slightly better than what is described here.
True. But
Um,
at the same time, if you get someone on drugs,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
they're not seeing, you know, the green teeth. They're not seeing the stuttering. You
right.
know, they could just be seeing this hot guy. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't know what he looks like, so you know, like
Right,
an actual
well-
physical description versus just a general description.
Yeah, and it doesn't really talk about much about Debbie if she was also on drugs. Yeah, it was Debbie, right? Yeah, I believe it was Debbie.
I think so.
It doesn't say that she was on drugs. I'm not going to assume she was. But a lot of Jim's friends could not understand why. He was by this point wealthy, like he made his money with restore, like you said, flipping homes, and then he had an antiques business. He restored antiques. So nobody could understand why this man is with this drug addict, sex worker. And a lot of sources say because they had known each other around 2 years. Like I don't know an exact date that he got there. I do know the murder takes place on May 2nd, 1981.
Okay. 2 years
Oh.
before I'm born.
I was 7, not quite 8. No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Did you forget how old you were?
You
or
know
what
what?
year you were born?
I have not finished my coffee. I've got it started enough where I can somewhat speak. I'm not mathing yet. Sorry.
I don't think there's enough coffee that I can consume to make me want to math.
I should be able to math really well. That is what I went to school for, but I'm not mathing right now. So, but again, a lot of his friends could not understand, you know, what was the appeal. So it said that Danny lived in the home with Jim. Some people say he lived in the guest house. And it says their relationship was complicated. While Danny was said to have helped with Jim Antique's business, the bulk of their relationship was sexual. Jim would provide Danny with the roof over his head, gifts and money, and we're talking like lavish gifts, not look, here's a crystal. These are like,
Yeah, not you and I. We're talking upper crust.
yeah, like jewelry, things like that.
Yeah, the things we can only wish to have.
So, right, yeah. So one point of contention in their relationship was Danny's girlfriend, which I really don't know in any of this. She's not really a forward kind of person with this, or maybe there is, and I just didn't find that. Because there's no last name listed, so I have no idea. But Debbie was a point of contention in their relationship. Jim was jealous and didn't like it. Which, I mean, I don't know. A man with money, and he's got to have intelligence in order to buy these homes and flip them and restore and sell antiques. He can't be stupid.
Right.
And it doesn't really say at this time that he is on drugs.
Okay.
So
maybe those came later.
Yeah. So, okay.
But at the same time, there are people who can hyper focus on a subject and appear to thrive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's some skippings. I'm sorry. Okay, so the tension basically comes to a head May 2nd, 1981. So according to court documents at 2:58 a.m. On May 2nd, Jim calls the Savannah Police Department saying there had been a shooting. So that was the first one. They are there at the home 90 seconds after receiving the call. I've never been to Savannah, and honestly, it's a place, it started when I was a Girl Scout, because as a Girl Scout, they were founded in Savannah, Georgia. So that was always my reasoning for wanting to go. And then as I got older, it was, haunted Savannah. And then I would really love to go and see this house. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I would love to go. So he opens the door and said, I shot him, he's in the other room. So this is the first story he tells police. So, and then I'm going to be quoting here in a minute on the scene. So they enter, okay. Jim escorts the police down the entrance hall to his study. Remember that room. Remember it. Put it in your bun. Remember it. So as they enter the study, they saw a desk on the left of the room. In front of the desk on an oriental rug was Danny's lifeless body. So Danny was, quote, lying in an antique-filled study, because remember, he's an antique stealer,
right,
in a pool of blood. And then it says it was evident that at least a half an hour had passed that Jim had shot Danny before he called police. So what does that tell you?
I'm confused. Who said that it took a half an or that it was a half an hour?
When the police entered the room, it was evident he didn't just call. It was 90, their response time was 90 seconds. He is in a pool of blood. So what does that tell you?
That the police were covering it up.
No.
The police were helping.
No, the dude staged the scene.
Oh. Sorry.
You're fine. Okay, so according to the National Registry of Exoneration, this is how Danny was found. Quote, lying face down with a pistol under his right hand. He had been shot in the back, the chest, and above the right ear. Bullet holes on the floor corresponded to the shots in Danny's head and back, except that his head was facing to the left. Remember, he was shot above the right ear. The responding officer said he found smeared blood on the victim's right wrist, and the victim's thumb and fingers were on top of the gun, not holding.
That part tells me, yes, it's been staged and tampered with.
Well, a response time of 90 seconds in a pool of blood. Jenny. So you can tell your
time of 90 seconds. I mean, that tells me somebody's already clued in.
No, what it was he called after staging the scene, and they were there immediately.
And that's the part that's fishy to me, that they're there immediately. Where and in what world do police respond immediately?
He's wealthy.
Doesn't matter. It's wealthy. Still gonna take time for the police to get from point A to point B. Even if it's 2 minutes. You know what I mean?
I don't know the size of Savannah. So Like, I don't know, maybe he's just down the road from the police station. I don't know. But it took them
It could
90
be, like,
seconds.
across the street.
But he's wealthy. Either way, does not matter.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. He's wealthy. And the call said there was a shooting. So response time
Yeah.
is probably going to be quicker. Okay, so then to continue, there was blood on the floor under Danny's body, but none in the vicinity of his right hand. Curiously, the leg of the chair was on top of Danny's pant leg. The bullet had passed through some papers because, okay, he supposedly fired at Jim first. The bullet had passed through some papers on the desk, and lead fragments were recovered from the chair behind the desk that Jim was supposedly sitting in. Placed on the desk, police found the pistol that Jim had used to shoot Danny. Quote, there were also paper fragments on top of the gun, which had been used by the defendant for shell casings, were found at various places in the room. So, basically, and I'm not going to go over everything because a lot of it is just repeating. So anyway, before police leave the scene, Jim is arrested. And he ends up telling a couple different stories about what happened. And I mean, I think he took a little bit from this, like he took the truth, he picked pieces of the truth and added it to each story.
Okay.
Do I think Danny shot at him? No, I don't. And I think that's part of the staging of the scene. I think what happened, because one of the stories is, okay, supposedly they were fighting over Debbie. And the other thing is there was an upcoming trip to Europe for antique shopping. And initially Danny was supposed to go with him. And then Jim tells him, no, I'm taking Joe Goodman, which is the one that described Danny. Jim said, quote, Danny went wild, going around breaking things. Now, at the scene, police did find things that were broken. So I can't imagine that somebody who is pissed off that they are now not going to Europe, like I'd be pissed. If you're promising me a trip, it doesn't even have to be to Europe. If you're promising me a trip anywhere, and then you go, no, I'm taking another friend. First of all, fuck you. And second, I'm going to tear shit up.
Right. And especially you're going to tear shit up considering that is what they're going for. You're going to ruin what you can and make them buy more.
Yes. So according to Joe Goodman, the one that was substituted for this trip, Jim calls him around 2 a.m. the night of the murder and says, look, the trip is canceled. Sorry. So now nobody's going. But in the process, there was I believe it's a grandfather clock that was worth a lot of money.
They are. Oh.
And this was an antique grandfather clock, so it's worth some money.
Several grand at a minimum.
Yeah. So just 10-15 minutes later, so mind you, this is at 2 o'clock when he calls. 10 to 15 minutes later, he calls Joe Goodman and says, I've shot him. And he doesn't call police until 2:58. So that absolutely says, one, scene was staged, and the police had it right, that there was more than a half an hour that went by before this call was made. So it does talk about how a month earlier, Jim had called the police because they were involved in an argument, and Jim told police that Danny had shot the floor twice. But the night of the murder, he says like he was shooting at me. So he's changing stories and embellishing things. And so anyway, he's arrested. And this is why I say wealthy, because the judge, which Eugene H. Gadsden, excuse me,
That's
was
a
called
pompous name. I'm sorry.
right. Was called in the middle of the night for an ad hoc bond. I don't know what that is. Hearing that was held in the judge's home. So that just kind of shows you the influence, because okay, one of the things that I maybe should have talked about before was one thing other than like he was a socialite, a male socialite. So I don't know what those are called, male socialite. He was known for this insanely lavish Christmas party every year. And everybody in Savannah wants to be there.
Right.
So what he does is everybody's name is on an index card. If you have pissed him off, you're in the no pile. If you're a good friend and blah, 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 you're invited. So no one wants to be in the no pile. And also the parties are part of the after thing. So he's given a $25,000 bond and was released later that day. It wasn't until June 12th, 1981, so over a month later, that he was indicted for murder. And he sits down for an interview with the Georgia Gazette. In the interview, he details his version of events, which the chief ADA in the case was Depp, like Johnny Depp, but with one P, Kirkland. And he also wrote a book, which is where the other podcast got their information. It's called Lawyer Game After the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which I'm trying to find that on audiobook because I really do want to listen to it. I don't have time to read a book anymore. I just don't. Not like for this, I will sit down and read, but like to read a book for fun, for pleasure, it's audiobooks. Which right now,
my question is, do they sell it at Kroger? Because they're missing an opportunity there.
why?
Because their off-brand is Kirkland.
Oh, hey. Okay.
Yep. And Costco. Costco has Kirkland brand too.
Okay. See, I don't go to either of those. Honestly, the only thing Roy ever goes to, my husband is so weird. The only thing he goes to Kroger for is Kroger is the only store that has best of both worlds ice cream. It is the Kroger brand. It is literally half chocolate, half vanilla. There's no strawberry. And I've tried from Walmart. He gets mad. He doesn't get mad. He's like, it's not the same. I'll eat it, but it's not the same thing.
Different companies have different ways to mix it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Vanillas are not the same either.
Oh God, no, because there's French vanilla, vanilla, and fake vanilla.
And New York vanilla.
I'm not a vanilla person, so
Me either.
Same.
But yeah, no, I
especially once you know where vanilla flavoring comes from. Do you know?
A bean. Well, technically it's like a
Flavoring.
What do you mean?
Like the artificial vanilla flavor.
No. I vanilla, not artificial. Okay.
It's
Do I want to know where it comes from?
do you eat a lot of artificial vanilla stuff?
No.
I believe it's a beaver's anal gland. It could be the wrong animal, but I do know it's an anal gland. So when you eat artificial vanilla, you are technically eating ass.
Jill, apologize to our listeners.
Nope.
Oh shit. Now
Nope.
you know. Now you know.
They know what they know what they signed up for. They know. Work is gonna be fun today. Okay, so during the interview, he details his version of events, which by this point he's on his 5th version of the story.
Oh, nice.
So again, I'm guessing he plucks a little, takes the truth and sprinkles it like salt. But apparently the guy goes through and wrecks this grandfather clock, which is worth tens of thousands of dollars, if not more.
Mhm.
I don't remember the exact amount. I might have it somewhere. I probably don't, but whatever. So anyway, he goes through 4 trials,
Dang.
spends over $1 million throughout these trials on his defense. Like,
Determination.
yeah, and wealth. Okay, they get into this fight over either the girlfriend or the Europe trip. I don't know. I'm gonna guess because there was the phone call made, it was the Europe trip. So Jim tells him, you gotta go. He says, I'm leaving town. Danny says, I'm leaving town tomorrow. Leaves the room and then supposedly comes back with the gun and says, but you're leaving tonight, and shoots at him. I don't believe. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that's what happened.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Do I? Bitch.
Did it jump on you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hate that.
So I gotta fucking find the shit where I was.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Okay, I found it. So during a couple of the arguments, Jim says that Danny tells him, why don't you just go off and die, kind of thing. So that's where we are. So he also told the Georgia Gazette that Danny, quote, dropped by to pick up a few dollars for a date, but he told police that Danny came home at 2 a.m. I don't know. Okay, the grandfather clock was valued at $10,000 in 1981. So
Probably worth about 30 now. 40.
or more, yeah. Maybe that, maybe a little more. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Jim told the newspaper that Danny, quote, destroyed thousands of dollars worth of antiques during the argument. But Jim told police the damage was only around 600. So I don't know personally what I think happened, like just by things. I think there was an argument over the trip and Danny was destroying shit, and that's Jim's life's work. So maybe that's what he was defending and then went, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Staged the scene and
that to me sounds way more plausible than the story that he's putting out, like any of the stories he's putting out, because even if it like happened the way he says that, Danny got mad because he was going out of town with the other person, okay, fine. fair enough. That is relatable and understandable. But to say, okay, I'm leaving tomorrow, but you're leaving tonight. Well, no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, leaving tonight by I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I understand that. That's the part that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Why be like, well, I'm gonna leave tomorrow, but you're
Right.
leaving now. You can just
Well,
be like, well, we'll end this right now. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah. Well, Danny's thing was I'm moving out tomorrow. Don't worry about me no more. I'm moving out. And then he comes back and says, but you're leaving tonight, and then shoots at him. And then that's when Jim shoots at Danny, according to Jim.
Yeah. It just doesn't
Um,
track for me.
yeah. So I'm not going to go through a lot of the details of the first two trials. He was convicted and went to prison. For the third trial, some new evidence came to light for the defense, which was that Danny's hands were never bagged at the scene, which should have been done to
Yeah.
preserve any gunshot residue.
That, and considering they said that there was blood on the sleeve or whatever of the one hand, but there was no blood by it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that would also preserve that as well.
Right. So he's transported to the hospital. Morgue, maybe, I don't know. But there was a nurse that testified in the third trial that the hands were not bagged. That trial ended in a hung jury. They tried to say, okay, well, now that's double jeopardy. You can't, but they did. There was trial number 4, where another nurse testified that not only was Danny's hands not bagged, she got a phone call after he had been there, I don't know how long, to bag his hands.
Oh.
Yeah. And during this fourth trial, an ex-girlfriend of Danny's testified for the defense that Danny was a drug addict. He was prone to violence. So, fourth trial, he's acquitted. He's acquitted. He's a free man. He can go home and go about his life. Well, he gets home and now is telling everybody he is haunted by the spirit of Danny. So Jim brings in a voodoo priestess named Minerva, which is funny because that was always a nickname when I was little. So anyway, I'm trying to see when he was acquitted. Okay. I think he was acquitted like May 12th. Yes. May 12th. So it was 8 years and 10 days after the anniversary of the murder that he is acquitted. And the jury had spent 1 hour deliberating. And at this point, the defense wasn't surprised because one of the defense attorneys had seen jurors laughing during closing arguments. And apparently they don't laugh if they're going to convict. I don't know. At the time, Jim was the only person to ever live through 4 murder trials in Georgia. I don't know who has since, but maybe that's another story. So, okay. So again, he's throughout the years of Jim's 4 trial, it's alleged that Jim would see a voodoo priestess named Minerva, according to author John Barrett, who's the one that wrote Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Minerva tried to reach to teach Jim that, quote, you to understand the living, you must commune with the dead. Minerva believed that Minerva later on afterwards believes that Danny killed Jim because do you remember where Danny was found? Where Danny was killed in the study?
Yeah.
A little over 8 months after his acquittal, Jim dies in the study. His causes of death were listed as a combination of congestive heart failure, cardiac arrest, and unknown with some sources saying pneumonia. And of course, because he was a gay man, there were whispers that AIDS could have been a factor. But that was only a rumor.
Considering the time frame,
Yeah,
it does kind of fit, but I'm not going to put it on it. But
right.
Interesting what was actually, diagnosed, because people who do will say follow that practice that the voodoo priestess was talking about. People who do follow that do have physical symptoms from doing those things. A lot of people who go down that road say that it messes up various systems, whether it's neurological or whatever. So that in itself is interesting to me.
Yeah.
And for her to say that he killed him.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And especially after, claiming that he was being haunted by Danny. So that does make sense. So that is one of the haunting stories. And like I said, after Jim passed, he left the home to his mother because he was 60. I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I thought it was 59, but apparently it's yeah. According to Depp Kirkland, Jim, quote, died lying across the threshold of his study wearing nothing but a white t-shirt. His arms were bent up to his chest, his hands in loose fists. Had Danny Hansford's right hand been placed back underneath him, their positions in the end would have been strikingly similar.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's interesting.
That is.
That's very interesting. So yep. Another thing that people have reported seeing and hearing is the parties going on in the home when nobody is inside.
Well, that would be fun.
Yeah, that is something I would
be like, yeah, I went to that party 20 years late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be very, 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 very cool.
Yeah.
And a couple of side notes, like I said, after the mother passed, she left the home to the daughter. And it was either in 19, and her name, Jim's sister's name was Dorothy Kingery, and it was either in 2021 she passed. But strangely enough, I was looking last night after we recorded, because I was kind of telling Roy a little bit about, and I'm like, do you remember watching that movie? He was like, I think I do. Because Roy watches a lot of movies and maybe doesn't remember them by title. So yeah, Roy.
I almost never remember them by title. That's why when you said the singer, I was like, I need a song.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm not quite sure. So that Depp Kirkland that wrote the other book, he passed away last year, I believe, in a drowning accident. Yeah.
Huh.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, it's interesting. But the sister ran the home, I believe, as yeah, no. Yeah, let me see. Because I know I looked it up because again, I wanted to look this up. Um, Dorothy Kingree. Sorry, just one second. I'm just looking this up. His sister was in the movie, and
Oh,
she played herself.
cool.
Yeah. Um. I'm sorry. I wasn't better prepared.
That's all right. It happens.
Actually, shortly after I started researching the story, or shortly before I started researching the story, is when his sister passed away. She passed away on February 4th of this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Very recent. That's
very.
insane.
Yes. And Depp Kirkland passed away. Sorry. And Depp Kirkland, on top of being a lawyer, was also a writer and actor.
Wow. Multifaceted guy.
He was in 2 episodes of Twin Peaks. He was in Friday the 13th, The Storm, an episode of Law and Order. Yeah, and he also wrote like short films. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah, but he passed away in last year in 2022.
Wow.
Yeah, so again, I was looking up haunted locations and that name just popped out. And then as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, got it. I got to do it too first. So like, there's not a whole lot to tell about the hauntings, but it's multiple hundreds of people have reported hearing and seeing, like as walking by, like hearing the music and people laughing and the lights, and many people have reported seeing the little boy falling to his death. Now I don't know if people were able to tour the home and if anybody's seen anything inside, because that would be cool as fuck.
It would.
But yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's an
Yeah.
interesting story. And especially to know that that movie is, based off of actual events, that little grain of
It
truth
was
to the
directed
movie.
by Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. And honestly, I like Clint Eastwood. I do.
Same. Like honestly, I don't remember a lot of details of the movie. I do remember liking the movie.
Hmm.
Again, I did not use the book for any source. One little bit of trivia was the author, that John Barrett, whatever the fuck his name is,
Hmm.
did not like Kevin Spacey's portrayal of Jim Williams. And I guess he had offered him like tapes. He was like, no, I've seen tapes. Well, the tape he watched was, I believe, of the fourth trial when he was on, when the real Jim Williams was on Valium. So that's how Kevin Spacey played the role, kind of like,
Half
and
out of it.
he said like once he knew that, he was like, okay, he did that perfect. He like mimicked everything about that, but he should have maybe watched other stuff, not just
Yeah.
that. So, but yeah, it is a good movie. I know a lot of people aren't Kevin Spacey people,
I like Kevin Spacey. I do.
because of, the Me Too thing, which I understand. I've always liked him as an actor. One of my favorite movies is American Beauty. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I have not followed the Me Too movement.
I mean,
It's personal
I've
reasons, and I'm sure you can understand why. So I don't know who's been accused of what. And to be honest, I kind of don't really want to unless like they actually go to jail for it. Like there's,
right. Um, you know, it is kind of like a double-edged sword. Like I said, I even before all that, I've always been a huge fan of Kevin Spacey. I
Mhm.
fucking loved him in everything I've ever seen him in. Um, and like he issued an apology, so I fully believe he did it. Which sucks. I do like his work. Um, so I feel bad. And and there's other ones that I was like he didn't get fired from the show he was on until he issued the apology and all this other stuff. Where, and again, I'm not saying any of this to offend anybody, but you got Danny Masterson, who was on The Ranch, who I loved him on that show.
Yes.
Um, got fired as soon as the accusations were made.
Hmm.
But what I like about what The Ranch did was every single episode after, he was mentioned at least once in every single episode.
Yeah. And
So,
that's the part that kills me is just because of an accusation, someone's life can be destroyed. And that's why I
yeah,
haven't listened. Like you're talking about a certain situation and an apology. I have absolutely no knowledge of it.
yeah. Um, and like I know like the and I do not ever, and anyone in my real life can tell you, I don't ever get political about anything. My Facebook page, there's no politics, there's no nothing like that. I
Mhm.
I keep my opinions to myself because too many people just unfriend you for the stupidest shit.
Right.
And so I keep a lot of my thoughts and beliefs to myself because they're my opinion anyway. They're my business.
Right.
If my opinion affects somebody else, then absolutely. But it's my opinion. Um, so I in no way, shape, or form meant to make this political in any but the
No,
whole
I
thing
get it.
was um the movie, which like I said, I, I I try to figure out how long ago I've seen the movie by where I watched it. Like I'll tell Roy, The House We Lost in the Fire, or the one before that. That's how I know how long ago I watched a movie. So that like I watched this movie like probably 10 years ago.
I
But
can't even tell you where I was when I watched it or who I was with.
yeah, it was, I mean, it's a good movie. And
Yeah, I remember that.
like if you're not someone who like boycott somebody and you still watch people for their body of work, I highly recommend the movie. It's a great movie. Do not, well, I don't want to say don't read the book because that's mean. But like I said, let me see if I can see how far I got into the book. It was not far because all he did, okay, it's an 11-hour book. Nope, hold on.
Oh, it's an
I
audiobook. I'm
have,
like, why?
yeah, I'm on chapter 6 of 30,
Yeah, shit.
and I just can't get any further. I just,
Out of curiosity, was it because of like the pompous and extravagance of it, or was it the way in which it was told?
you know, the telling is good. It's, to me, a lot of information. If you're writing the book about this case, it's shit that doesn't matter. Because I guess what happened was the author had originally went down to Savannah, Georgia for something. I don't remember what it is. It is mentioned in the Southern Fried True Crime podcast why he went down there. Um, but it's about a bunch of people that are like very eccentric people that live in Savannah, Georgia, where they party all day and they do this. And there's one story about this, like an older woman, like elderly, who sings, and she drives like from venue to venue that she sings at, like nightclubs, birthday parties, weddings, whatever, and gets in car crashes. So take away her fucking license and get her a chauffeur. My God.
Maybe though he was using that as like kind of the backdrop, as the extravagance of the city itself, and how all these people, who are high society, they come here and they do these things and they get away with them.
I mean, that is very possible. That's highly probable.
Because there's
But
little pockets, different places in different states that are like that, all over,
yeah,
like little spots in Maine and stuff. And
yeah, I just I have a
what was
call.
that?
I have a call coming in from GM.
Oh, okay. Well, we can leave and you can answer it.
Oh, nope, it's good. I figured they were maybe canceling because the last couple of weeks they've been canceling like a week early.
Mm.
Because last week, I believe it was last Wednesday, we had got the call that this Saturday was going to be canceled, but it was only for third and second shift, and first shift was still working. And this is because I get a text, and this is just saying that now first shift is canceled for this Saturday and next Saturday.
Did you mark on the calendar that first shift had to work and not second and third?
Oh, they got canceled, so it don't matter. Spoiled ass
Oh,
motherfuckers.
bastards.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
always that battle between first shift, second shift, and third shift.
Always. Always. Because like usually it's first shift gets to go home.
And
And
first shift gets whatever they want.
yeah, and third shift has on many occasions went home at like 3 a.m. And we can be down for hours and they don't send us home. But last week, first shift left at 2 o'clock. So they got out an hour early.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because we were out of some parts, some very important parts for a truck. That we ran we were down for a little bit when we started, and then the parts came in and we ran, and then we started like slowing down, and then we were told we could go home at 7 o'clock. So yeah, last Thursday we were out early. So on that note, I'm gonna say I hope everyone's having a good day. And this will be out on Sunday. So happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
I hope family is spoiling you. At least if you have kids in school, you get some cute. See, that's one thing I miss about my kids being in school is all the cute little Mother's Day gifts I got.
My son told me in the beginning of April, he was working on a Mother's Day present for me.
Oh, see, I would be so excited.
I was like, what? I mean, because that's pretty far out to start working on it. So
Yeah,
I'm really curious what it's going to be.
yeah, yeah. So
And he does do a really good job of picking me good gifts. Not gonna lie. Like he got me I forget what crystal it is. The one for the throat chakra, the blue one,
okay,
with like the white in it. I have a coaster over here. And then I have a jewelry dish on my dresser. It's probably about this big, but it's just big enough to fit a few rings in the bottom and then my bracelets on the top.
oh, okay,
So he does good
nice,
picking gifts, which
good.
I have to take him this weekend to go buy gifts. So
That's good. So yeah, I hope everyone is having, or because hopefully you're busy with your family on Mother's Day and you're listening to this on Monday. So I hope you had a great Mother's Day. So yeah, I'm gonna go get ready for work now.
all right. Have a great day at work.
Thanks, you too.
Don't kill Kenny. And I'll talk to you later.
You know, funny story about Kenny. He
Oh
walked
shit.
past me last night and said, "It's been great working with you." I don't know what that means because he just kept walking. He didn't give me a chance to ask questions. So
God damn it,
I didn't
Kenny.
I didn't work with him last night. He was on another job. So I don't know what the fuck that meant.
Okay, kill Kenny.
So I hope you guys have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.